My name is Alexander Booker, and today I'll be playing my modified version of Sorry. Traditionally in Sorry, each person has one color, and they have 4 pawns, which they need to get into the home space of their respective colors. In my modified version, there are 2 teams. One team of red and yellow, and another team of blue and green. Both of those teams need to work together to get their colors into their respective home bases before the other team. Normally in Sorry, players do this by drawing one card and doing what it says on the card, like moving the number of spaces or doing an effect that a card has. But in my version, I've added it so that players all have a hand of 4 cards. And on a player's turn, they can either play a card from their hand or discard 2 of their cards to draw 2 new cards. Another change I have added is that players on the same team can show each other their cards and formulate a strategy. I wanted all of these changes to come together to form a more strategic and team-based style of gameplay. So today I will be playing as all 4 people. Just keep in mind that one team is red and yellow and the other is blue and green. Normally in the game, all players won't be able to see their hands, but for this demonstration, I'll be able to see all the hands, but I won't act on it. So, we'll begin with player 1's turn. Player 1 has 2 pawns in the start zone, and he can only get out if he has a 1, 2, or Sorry card. Player 1 has a Sorry card in his hand, so he plays a Sorry card, and he brings one of his pawns out. Now at the end of player 1's turn, they can draw another card from the deck to add to their hand, and that's the end of their turn. Play now continues to player 2. Now, player 2 looks at his hand, and he sees that, oh, he has a 2. So player 2 plays his card, and he can bring one of his pawns out. Then player 2 draws a card. Play will continue like this until anything major happens in the game, like player 3 has a Sorry card. Now, if only player 1 on the same team had a pawn out, then player 3 would not be able to use a Sorry card to leave their base. But since player 2 has a pawn out, and player 2 is on a separate team, then player 3 can play the Sorry card, move one of their pawns, send the blue pawn back, and take their spot. Then they'll draw a card. And then that's the end of their turn. Now it's player 4's turn. So player 4 knows that player 2 has just been sent back to the start, and player 4 has a Sorry card, or he can use his 2 to get out. So player 4 is going to use his 2 to bring one of his pawns out and then draw a card. And now play goes back to player 1. Player 1 cannot use his 1 to bring another pawn out because there's already a pawn on the space outside the start zone. So player 1 now has to move his 1 piece. So to move the furthest amount of spaces, player 1 will play a 12. And move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 spaces. Now, player 1's landed on a slide space. Normally, if you land on a slide space of a different color, you'd be able to slide to the end. But since player 1's teammate, the yellow pawn, is on that slide zone, he cannot move. So he ends his turn right here and draws a card. And now it's the next person's turn. So this is interesting, and I can show off one of the mechanics I've added here. Now, player 2 doesn't have a 1, a 2, or a Sorry card, so he wouldn't be able to do anything this turn. But instead, player 2 can discard 2 cards without playing them and draw 2 new cards. It's not the best, but it is a way to make sure you're not stuck without being able to do anything. So since player 2 cannot make a move, play continues to player 3. Player 3 now has their turn. Now, player 3 from their hand has a number of cards they can play. But the interesting thing about this modification is player 3 can use one of the cards for player 1. So say player 1 asks player 3 for help, or they get together and look at their cards to come up with a strategy. Now, player 3 can go, I'm going to play this 8, on player 1, the red pawn. So the 8 pawn now moves 8 spaces forward. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then slides to the end because it's landed on that slide. And then player 3 draws another card, and that ends their turn. And now it's player 4's turn. So now player 4 has their sorry card that they didn't use last turn. So strategically, they'll use the sorry card now to get both of their pawns out of their home base and send the red pawn back to his start zone and take his space. And we have to remember that sorry cards can only be used by the person who has them in their hand and on their own pawns. And that ends player 4's turn, and it goes back to the beginning. Play will continue like this until one team has all of their pawns into their respective home spaces. I made this so that the game would go a little bit faster and require a little bit more strategy, as you can work with your teammate to move easier and more strategically to land on the slide spaces